year 2023 passed by with full of challenges. The sum of challenges we're going to take over in 2024, but we'll talk about that later. So what was the biggest challenge you noticed as a journalist, which you heard from the people?
In the Kingston region here in the city, it was the homelessness issue and the cost of living, groceries specifically, over and over and over again. People would talk about how they couldn't afford, they had to choose between eating and living. You know, there's not enough affordable housing. We've see the struggles of all the people, you know, living in the care hub downtown, and you know, more and more people are living on the streets. That was the biggest issue that we faced, and one that would come up daily, you know, when we're in our news meetings and stuff like that. And you know, even right through Christmas when I was doing features on, you know, the food bank and the drives that happen around that time of the year to help people, the prevailing theory was, and prevailing message was, that there's more help needed now than ever before. The increase in need has gone up immensely. And then there's the housing issue, which the city has dealt with for a long time, and that's an issue that faces not only the city, but that's a provincial and a national issue, right? How we can, with lending rates where they are, people aren't able to afford anything. And then rent has gone up, and there just aren't enough affordable homes or places for people to be. So those were two of the big issues that we saw a lot of coverage over the year on, and we will carry those into 2024 for sure.
Mm-hmm. The housing and homelessness is a very complex issue. Like you said, that it's not only locally, and it's not only Kingston facing this one. We are facing all over Canada. But you know, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you are the journalist. Maybe it's all over the world. It's the same, you know, thing is. But as human being, our heart goes to those in need. But we are unable, or we was unable to figure it out, how to overcome with it. And if may I ask you to help me to understand it from your perspective, from your point of view as a journalist, what was the biggest reason that we have this issue, and this issue became very complex?
I think it started, and it's easy to blame everything on the pandemic, but when you look at what happened in the fallout from 2020, it is still happening now, right? Everything was shut down. The supply chain became a major issue in 2020, 2021. Businesses had people working from home. They were all reporting losses, you know, less income. People just decided they didn't want to work for $15.50 an hour at the time. I think it's gone up now to almost $17. So that carried through the last couple of years, and that has been the underlying problem with everything. I mean, we saw at the height of the pandemic, we saw the real estate market just go sky high. People were selling homes for, you know, double, triple what they paid for them, and that hasn't come back down. Those prices haven't come back down. They've come down some. You know, I've experienced that myself this year with selling my home. Certainly those prices are coming down. It's certainly a buyer's market right now, but with the rates still very, very high, it makes it very unattainable for a lot of people. And then as we came out of the pandemic, the costs of everything inflated. That was predicted. It was said at the time that we would go into an inflation. I don't even think we're through the middle of that right now. The forecasts for 2024 show that we're still going to be dealing with inflated prices. I think that's hard for a lot of people to understand, why 4 years later, we're coming up on the 4-year anniversary of the pandemic, that our prices are still as high as they are. We saw some things during the pandemic got really high, like lumber and things like that, because it was a supply issue. But it's hard for people to understand why they're paying $6 for a pound of butter right now, when some of that stuff is regulated. And I think these are some questions for the government, you know, at every level. but certainly at the federal level, why are regulated things like butter and cheese and dairy products so high? Why are they going up when they're a regulated household staple? I spent some time working at a grocery store this year in between, working at the Whig and everything else that I do, and people would come in and say, look, I can't afford butter. I can't.
Mm-hmm.
I'm picking on butter, but I mean, $6.50 for a pound of butter when 3 years ago it was $2.49.
Yeah.
That's a significant increase, right? So, people just had to choose between eating and paying their rent, and some people have been choosing to eat, and they're getting evicted. They're just giving up their homes because they can't afford them and they have nowhere to go. Some people don't have family members who can help them out or take them in. This is, what we're facing right now, and what we certainly faced a lot of in 2023.